With the dollar, excuse me. So DXY has been pretty strong, at least it was pretty strong coming into the week from last week, of course, but today itself has started off pretty bearish and not too surprising. Based on where price is trading, we are in an area where I can definitely see some sellers entering the market. You can see we had a brief pause here and we had a pretty aggressive move to the downside, and this actually swept the prior lows as well. So this is an area where I do expect to see sellers step in. We have successful lower highs in this area as well. Perhaps the market could be looking at another one. That could be a big possibility. I'm not quite convinced. I'm not so much looking to swing DXY back to lows and further this week. The reason that is because we have already taken out this low. So the reason I'm expecting USD to fall is to go and take out this low. Now, since we have already done that last week, I don't really have as much confidence to back up this swing. Yes, the market is bearish. Yes, we're very consistent with all these lower highs. At the same time, I like to have an area which I'm expecting the market to take out or go retest. Don't really have that advantage anymore. So yes, we are trading in an area where sellers are likely to enter the market, maybe buyers taking some profit. So I do think we can have a reaction, but I'm not as confident for the big swing as I was in previous weeks here for the DXY. Of course, looking at intraday time frames, if I drop to the hourly chart, I can see how corrective we're looking. So it looks like momentum is clearly fatiguing, and we could probably see some downside. Now, would I look to short DXY now, especially for a lower time frame kind of point of view? No, not really. We just come back into support. I wouldn't suggest this is the best place to be shorting. Perhaps another run back to highs, that could be a nice place to short. Bit more aggressive, but you can position yourself well because the market starts to run out of steam, and you can see these lower highs or higher highs forming, but with less momentum and clearing the highs, clearing the previous high by less distance. So I can see we're kind of becoming a bit more corrective. So perhaps another run back to the highs could be the better place to position yourself for a short. Of course, being in this area of supply as well, and perhaps taking advantage of a move lower. I think trying to enter now is a little bit late to the party, and you do run the risk of price having that pullback and just going straight into drawdown as well. So if you are short bias on the dollar, this is kind of how I see it. And same thing with euro dollar as well. This one, if I expand to the 4-hour chart, you can see is pulling back into some nice areas of support. Prior demand levels, price has been pretty consistent with the higher lows. You can see with that trend line there. So basically mimicking what the DXY has been doing, but just flipped, of course. This could be potentially another higher low, but for the same reasons why I'm not so keen on taking DXY lower is the same reasons why I'm not looking to take euro dollar higher, because of course price has already ripped through the highs. Now I'm kind of looking for the next phase. Is this just a pullback for price to continue the trend, or perhaps are we hitting a top? We had a very aggressive wick rejection last weekly candle. You can see that piercing wick to the upside. Markets pull back down pretty aggressively. Not really what I want to see from a trend that I'm expecting to continue, or that I still want to see some strength. We're not quite seeing that. Of course, we could still feel the wick. That's a possibility, but it's nothing of high quality of high confidence that I would say, yep, I'm just expecting euro to continue. So I'm being a bit cautious again with buying EURUSD this week as well. Yes, we are testing a nice area, and that's a nice 4-hour candle close. My concern is not so much about the area. I do think we're likely to bounce. My question is that how far do we potentially move? Is it more of a push to form a lower high and come back down? Do we rip back to prior highs, retest it, or do we create new highs? I'm not so confident with that. So therefore, I'm kind of backing away with euro dollar for now. Again, really nice run to the highs this morning. Again, would you really want to be looking to buy now? I think it's a little bit late to the party. So I would suggest another sell-off could be a smart opportunity to enter back at lows, get a refined entry with a refined stop loss, and probably maximize your risk reward and just generally be in a better location to take advantage of that buy. So yeah, euro definitely in a nice place for a buy, definitely in a smart area to look for long opportunities. I would just suggest maybe waiting for another dip back into lows. I think buying here is a little bit late, and I could see price rolling back over and potentially going straight into drawdown there. So That's where my focus would be if I was looking to buy euro. But yeah, I'm kind of just being a bit more cautious. Pound, on the other hand, I quite like this one. I like the shorts on pound USD, really aggressive, bearish move last week. We had the Fed interest rate and then the pound interest rate, and that just caused pound USD to slide like no tomorrow lower. And we've taken out some key lows as well. And most importantly, price had a breakout of this key resistance level last week, but we came straight back in that range. So this looks to me like a big fake out. Price try to see the breakout, try to get back to highs down the left around 1.38. Didn't have the energy for it. Massive wick rejection there, and momentum came crashing back down. So the way I see pound USD now is we're likely to have somewhat of a correction and then continue to sell off and potentially come back to lows here. So I'm pretty bearish on pound USD this week. This is definitely one of the pairs I'm keeping a close eye on. However, I need a pullback before I do start shorting it. So I don't see the shorts happening today. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. Around then we might see some opportunities, but I think it's still a little bit too early for me to start be looking to short pound. But that is very much the plan. Fake to the upside, convincing bearish move. Now looking for a pullback and more downside. So if I scale a little bit lower, of course you can see some strength coming into play at the moment. So again, not really the time or place to be shorting. I mentioned this area as a really nice place for a short. So perhaps if we can have a nice corrective pullback back into that area, potentially some shorts could line up really well at that area. Lower high, on we go. I even would like a pullback all the way back to test the key level. Resistance once, twice, a third time briefly. Of course, that's our fake out. I wouldn't mind a retest of that. And then looking for entries at that level, stops above the high, and hoping to potentially capitalize on a swing back to the low of the range. That would be a really nice opportunity, especially the risk reward. If I can really time the entries well, that could be a very nice swing. So either of those areas has definitely piqued my interest, and now I'm just patiently waiting to get an opportunity in and around those areas. So some nice strength this morning for pound. I do think this is just likely a pullback in play. Of course, I wouldn't start shorting just yet, but I'm not interested in taking pound USD higher, and that is initially where my focus will be. So we'll see how we get on. But pound USD shorts is something I'm keeping a close eye on. Dollar CAD's been interesting. This one's been back and forth, very, very bearish towards the end of the week. We had some CAD news, which we did see some CAD strength come into the market, so a really aggressive move down. However, no real conviction. Price did drop pretty hard, but now we've seen successive bullish candles there. So it's like the momentum has almost never happened there. So I would just suggest that dollar CAD, if you want to keep things really, really simple with dollar CAD and not overcomplicate things, I would just say price is in a consolidation here. The smart move would be waiting for price to kind of break out or show momentum in a particular direction. Then we can look for pullbacks of that move. So let's say if price starts to pick up some momentum, we break out, well, then this opportunity becomes a lot clearer. Likewise, if you can break through this support level, whether we're looking for a retest or a pullback somewhere else, that becomes a lot clearer as well. Just in terms of direction, because I would still say if you're focused on this area, dollar CAD is a little bit 50-50 at the moment. I do have a bearish bias for dollar CAD because of this key level on the weekly chart. Really significant level of resistance, which price is still trading below. As long as we do trade below that, I do think eventually price will have a really aggressive move down. However, we do need to get that momentum going, and I'm not so willing anymore to be shorting the middle. I mean, I could potentially try and look for an opportunity if I can see some signs of a lower high forming. So we've got one over there, second over there. Potentially, I might have a stab at that this week. I did mention this area here last week. Potentially, I might look for a push to the highs and then a short. This would be a little bit more of an aggressive trade. Like I said, I kind of view this as consolidation. So it's not optimal conditions. It's not like this low create a new low. So it's not like we've got bearish structure at play like that. It's an equal low. So it's not as high probability, but I may give it a stab depending how the candlesticks form and the entry and things look good. Even if I can just catch a reaction off that area and price makes a move halfway, I can probably lock in some gains there. Move stops the break even. So if price does want to fluctuate and mess around, I still walk away with at least a break even, maybe a small win. But of course, if price does drop, well, it could be a much bigger trade. So I might give it a go. We'll see how the week does develop. But I am still very short biased because of that weekly level. So as long as we stay below that, I do think price can fall. And if you take a look at Aussie dollar, I quite like the shorts as well for this one. Really convincing move lower last week. As you can see, price is now back below that major high to our left. Again, I'm not quite convinced with this uptrend, so I haven't really been looking to try and buy Aussie dollar. This is a really corrective up move. We did see some strength, yes, breaking to the upside and creating some new highs there, but I'm not really interested in following this trend. It's really, really corrective, not really seeing much momentum. And scaling to the weekly chart as well, we've just closed back below that high there. Maybe the trend does continue, but it's not a trend which I will be looking to try and trade. I'll rather try and go against this because of how corrective it is. So I am looking at some shorts intraday. Of course, I have to be careful because the trend is still up and there's still some areas below us here, which I can see price potentially finding support and bouncing. But my kind of plan of action for Aussie dollar is, since we're really corrective right now, not see much momentum, I kind of want to see price maybe break to the upside, start to struggle, and then fall over. Then that becomes my trading opportunity. Looking basically for the next lower high. So there's one over there, create the new low. I'm anticipating this to be the low. And then I'm looking for the next lower high, and then that's my short opportunity. So yeah, Aussie dollar, I'm looking at some downside, maybe even price coming back to retest the prior high. That would be a nice confidence for the trade. Still maybe a couple days away from that trade actually forming. And I'm not looking for anything crazy. Like I said, this is an area which I have to watch out for. We could easily find support and continue higher. So at the very best, maybe that level would be my target. But yeah, Aussie dollar still keen on a move lower. New Zealand dollar, again, really aggressive move to the downside. I did say I'm keeping an eye out for some buying opportunities here, but this was really aggressive Thursday, Friday, which is something I didn't want to see. I mean, we had a really aggressive move initially, but I was hoping for us to kind of lose momentum, become a bit more corrective, but that wasn't the case. So going with New Zealand dollar, especially going into today at least, I do think we'll have at least a bit of a pullback. Price is still respecting this prior low, which of course kick-started this bullish move to create highs. So I do think this is still bullish territory, an area where buyers will be looking to enter, perhaps sellers taking profit after a very nice move back into lows. So I do think naturally we'll have a nice bounce. I also really like this 4-hour candle close, piercing wick to the low, pull back up. I do think we're likely to break higher. So similar to Aussie dollar, I do think this will see some upside, but again, I do think maybe a lower high does form and we come back down. I personally do prefer Aussie dollar and how that looks, so I will focus more of my efforts there. But perhaps a pullback into this kind of area, maybe retesting this high on the left. That could be an area for a short, perhaps somewhat of a head and shoulder pattern, not your most orthodox pattern, but it does fit the mold, kind of. So I push back into this area. But if you're looking for longs, this would be the area I would be interested in. If you're looking for shorts, my focus would be higher up around 0.591. And in terms of gold, looking pretty bullish from short. Yeah, just create new highs. 37.50 will be the next big psychological level. We're not too far away from that at the moment. So difficult really to do much with gold. We had a lovely breakout out this channel right before the week closed. I think that was, Friday afternoon. So really nice breakout on that candle. And price has just been looking bullish since then. Lovely retest of this demand zone here. So the next opportunity would again be another pullback. I say everything's looking pretty bullish right now. I like this area here. Brief pause. Again, a really strong commanding candle to the upside. I would suggest the pullback to that area would look good. Of course, depends on the pullback and how we react in those areas, but that's something I'll keep a close eye on. But 37.50 is my next big level, because if you look at the big psych levels between 3K to 4K, you got 3K, and then of course 3,000, 3,500, 3,500, and then 4K, and then if you split those in two, then you get 32.50 and 37.50. So that's why I do think this is a big area to keep an eye on. But yeah, momentum's very strong. I would suggest intraday pullbacks and just looking to buy the dips. I wouldn't be concerned about shorts for gold. I think it's way too aggressive. And likewise with silver, flying to the upside. 45 is a pretty big level, not too far away. That's probably where we're headed towards as well for silver. And again, looking intraday, perhaps maybe a retest of the high would be nice. But yeah, difficult to gauge, even if I dropped like a 15-minute chart. Actually, no, 15-minute chart will be becoming a little bit more corrective now. So maybe that's a sign that we're going to get a deeper pullback soon. But yeah, silver, I'll keep an eye on retest. This looks nice if you can get a pullback there. But 45 is where I'm expecting the next big checkpoint to be.